Welcome everyone. We are one of the last few sessions, but probably one of the good ones in that sense. We're going to focus on beyond ESG reporting and how we deploy sustainable and circular practices with the power of green finance. And what I'd like to do is welcome our esteemed guests here, and the three of us are going to have a conversation. I'd like to make it not a Q&A session, but a conversation and have some fun along the way. And with that in mind, I'd like to welcome the three of us here. Firstly, Alexandros, Panagiotopoulos. Firstly, what I wanted to say was I'm actually first and foremost a Greek Australian diaspora member, and proud to be contributing back to Greece in what I'll be doing, and I'll talk a bit about my background soon. But just following off the back of that session and that message. So, okay, so Alexandros Panagiotopoulos is Head of Investments at Hellenic Development Bank of Investments.
Yep.
Going back onto your LinkedIn profile, I looked and said, okay,
yeah. That's about 20 years ago.
I noticed that photo. There's a few of us that do that. Experienced ex-funds manager as well, to be fair. And I wasn't aware of this, but ex-president of the board of Spitokargos, GR2, right? Yeah. That would have been many moons
Proud
ago.
moment.
Yeah. I hear you. Next to Alexandros, we've got Dr. Nikos Kakogiannis. Nice to have you here as well. Managing Director and Co-founder at ResNovae, Sustainability and Investment Consultant, one of the leading players in Greece. Member of the board of the National Association of Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. Well done. And in the past, a visiting lecturer on sustainability and ESG sectors across several European universities. So quite a lot of background there in terms of the areas that you're focusing on. My quick background, I've 30 years in the software technology sector, and proud Greek Australian in that sense. Worked for multinationals like Microsoft and Fujitsu around the world, in China, in Japan, and in places like the US as well. And co-founder of 4 technology startups. Been 30 years in the industry and raised tens of millions of dollars, receiving money from the other side of the table, being VCs and growth equity. Angel invested quite a few times here in Greece and in the US and Australia. And venture builder, and also ran a public listed software company in Australia where I bought old software companies. I made them software as a service companies. And the last few years, I've transitioned over to green and sustainable finance, green and sustainable ventures. And I'm also a proud member of the board of Epignosis and a couple of other SaaS companies, scale-up Greek companies in Greece for the last 12 years. So, with that in mind, let's get into it and set the scene a bit. I wanted to set the scene around what this means to go green, in essence, at high level, and what it means to basically do ESG reporting, and where does it start and where does it stop. And these are part of the challenges that I see. Some of my observations really high level have been, now that I'm permanently living here, in the last 9 to 12 months, having conversations with product manufacturing companies and several different stakeholders in the geography. In some sense, I'm disappointed to see that we're still talking about ESG reporting. In the sense, it's also a reflection upon where the market's at, in terms of maturity levels. But we're recognizing that from that point of view, we need to go in and talk about some of the realities, which are there's about 50 billion euros of green finance available across Europe that needs to get deployed, and it's having a hard time getting deployed. The differences between ESG and impact are critically important to understand. The challenges between risk and reward in green finance is critically important for us to talk about. The economy being Greece as well is one that we need to talk about in terms of its dynamism, and it's structurally designed at the moment based on predominantly small businesses in that sense. Mm-hmm. So how do we tackle that? And there are some examples of really good companies out there that are really taking the next step around ESG reporting and moving into transitioning their companies with real purpose. Organizations like Patagonia globally, organizations like Interface, a company out of the US that's doing amazingly well globally. Triodos Bank in the Netherlands, really impressive in what they're doing in purpose-driven bank across the board. And HP is doing some amazing things around the world. So the key question that we're going to start off with is really saying, how do we go about tackling this area and applying green finance to it? And we probably, Alexandros, for you, Nika, really it's, what do we mean by green finance, right? Yeah, and then secondly, really going in and understand how we can start supporting these companies to that transition process.
Great. So, first of all, you had the luck of attending an ESG panel that was comprised of 3 brilliant women, and they talked for, in order not for us to repeat ourselves, we need to explore something that has not already been mentioned. So I could go on for many minutes and talk about green bonds and all the funding that is available around Europe, but you have already heard about that. So what I will do is I will improvise. I haven't told you anything about that. So
Even better.
I'm gonna talk to you about the role of HDBI in this, because ESG is not only environment. Environment, yes, is a necessity, is an urgency. Yes, we are doing a lot of things, but HDBI's DNA is also social and governance. Why? Because we, for the past 23 years, we manage public money, so we need to give back to the public.
Right.
And we need, but deep down and dirty, we're just LPs, so we need also to make money. So we have to balance things out. So what we do, and this also includes environmental issues, is we convince our fund managers, and we choose them that way, so as to convey the message to the companies that if they want to scale up, they need to be ESG compliant in their mindset, in their strategy,
100%.
in their nature. Otherwise, they're not going to find money in Europe. They're not going to find money anywhere.
That's right.
So what we do is we imposed ESG criteria even before they were invented in Europe. Nobody was talking about that. So we had excluded sectors that were polluting the environment. I remember, 15 or 20 years ago being that the case. Social is something that we need, and we give a special purpose on social. Why? Because you've met the HDB head, which was a female.
Yes.
Our CEO is sitting right
Antigone,
there.
yep.
Antigone is also a female, but we don't see them as female. They are people, and we treat everybody equally. And we fight each other. We argue with each other. We challenge each other, and this is what makes progression. So this is why we need social. And governance is something that we impose.
Yes.
That's it. Because we need the great companies. We are investors. We need to make money.
Yes.
In order to do that, you need companies that are the next champions.
Yes.
You don't want just companies. So this is the difference between ourselves and our mother company, HCB. They are more retail-oriented. They are a bank. We are an investment house. So we choose the best managers to cherry-pick the best companies. And we need governance all the way.
Yes.
So this is something, but I will agree with you, it is a challenge. And why? Because we're talking about small companies, and it's very expensive for them. Thank God we have people like you creating software that can ease this whole process. I was listening to you when we were having coffee, talking about that, the platforms that you can create in 10 minutes. This is really useful. We need that because it's a necessity. We need to report. We need to avoid greenwashing, and we need to focus on the essential work we have to do.
Yes, 100%. Totally agree with you.
Stop here because I can.
Oh, I'd love it.
Hours.
We could riff on this for hours. I think really, Nico, I want to find out from you, from your thoughts. I'm aware of the fact that you have a relationship as well with HDB in that sense, and your platform is sort of enabling the ESG sort of checking process. I don't know what you call it, but please tell us a bit about what you guys are doing there from that sense, and how you guys are sort of powering green finance in Greece right now.
Okay, thank
powering
you.
is an important word I just use in inverted commas, because not really powering, but you're empowering a particular part of the process.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you, Nick. It's very interesting what Alexandros described us, but our motto is that everything is data. All the principles that we must establish in our companies, our clients, is based on data, regardless if we have to deal with E, S or G. And at the end of the day, in our perspective, is numbers and values. So what we have succeeded is to translate all these different frameworks, all these different guidelines into detailed data points that the strategy makers or even the executives of a company can feed and support and verify with specific metrics. We have seen that many companies, especially the SMEs companies, they struggle to comply with all these different frameworks, the not structured data in their company.
That's right.
They have difficulties to embed, to integrate ESG strategy and also create value, as you know very well, in their daily life. So what we have succeeded is to build, for example, our software platform, Gonios, have built very structured steps for SMEs and large-scale companies and guide them to the new era of ESG compliance. This necessity, HDB, Hellenic Development Bank, heard this necessity of the SMEs and built a very structured roadmap for SMEs. Also, the Athens Stock Exchange market has built their own framework for the listed companies. The Greek state has already built many very mandatory guidelines for the Greek corporates. We're very lucky that all these important organizations have chosen our platform to mandate and drive the companies to achieve their goals. But the important for me is that there is a great problem in the companies. What is this? The commitment. I'm sure that also from your experience, you have seen that all the associates and the employees of the companies, they have become data hunters.
Yep.
They are not associates, they are not executives, they hunt data. This has created many daily pain points. We have many times there is a disagreement between the prioritization of the daily tasks of a company between the sustainability management team and all the other departments because they don't want anymore to hunt data. So technology, AI, and all these platforms are here to improve this daily life. And just to connect it and give you a pass as regard the green financing, we have seen that many loans from the banks are sustainability-linked loans.
Yes.
We're in discussion with financial institutions how we will transform and digitize this process. HDB has launched a specific financing calls to give loans to SMEs with better terms, financial terms, connected with specific ESG metrics.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, the theoretical approach that green financing is going to be a real issue in the daily life of the corporates, now we have seen that coming in through by these specific calls.
What do you...
Sorry, if I may interrupt. I never meant that we do not count the
No, I didn't say that.
ESG.
Alexandros.
Yeah, I know. But
I want you guys to have a bit of a divide and a bit of a fight now. But
in a little bit in a different direction. I mean, we should never put all our eggs at the, in the same basket.
100%.
And reporting is good
Yes.
as far as it is real.
Yes.
So you've seen about this scandal with the CO2 emissions.
Yes.
Huge.
That's right.
And everybody thought that they were legitimate.
Yes.
So
Well, there were bankers and Deutsche Bank bankers have gone to jail, for greenwashing.
The list is endless.
That's right.
So we need to have real reporting.
That's
because,
right.
You can create a platform, you can have all the data there, and they could be, fixtures.
That's right. It's exactly right.
That's it.
This is I think the big fundamental issue is source of truth being the data and where it comes from. I mean, I'm looking at it from a banker's point of view, investor's point of view, even a board's point of view from the other side is how can we trust what is being presented to us is the fundamental challenge right now. I mean, we have 250 years or many hundred years of, I look back at and look at what if we go back the history of money and the history of finance, so forth, 500, 600 years ago when Medici sort of, you would say, invented the double ledger, accounting system. We're entering this new era of a triple ledger accounting, and you're laughing now, but sort of my sort of simple view of the world, and in that sense, we need to start we're entering a new dawn where the triple ledger is going to become something that will have to become the norm in the next 50 to 100 years. I do think this is going to take a long time. I do believe it's going to take 3 generations. We're talking about 2030 and 2050 targets, but in the transformational change that I've seen with the technology sector, and I've seen 4 of these evolutions in my career already, it does take time. We need to get the early adopters to come through and start to storytell and present amazingly powerful, positive stories.
That's it.
So that was the point. This is the next part of the challenge that I think that exists is not the technology, right? With all due respect, there are hundreds of ESG reporting platforms out there, right? There's a plethora of them out there. With all due respect, Nikos, the challenge is actually driving behavior change, right? Both at an industry level and at a company level, and then feeding it back into the organization to execute on their objectives, right? So the bigger challenge that I see in the market is, and it's why it's taken us so long to think about what we're going to focus on with Circulist, because very much it's a systems thinking executional challenge that comes through, right? And so the question that I have is, how do we storytell better? It's a very different approach to thinking about this, but what do you guys do? What do the banks do? What do other players and stakeholders in Greece do that actually have to present a positive story? What frustrates me a lot in the market is that it's going to be the end of the world in 2030 or 2050 because we've got heat waves in Greece and blah, 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 blah. And the challenge is we're not basically giving a positive story out there around the amazing things that are happening with some amazing companies in Greece and around the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so the question that I have for you guys is simply different to what we were expecting to have a conversation with, but how do we really empower the small businesses and the mid-sized companies that are being told they've got to do this, but they don't know why? Yeah. It's actually a fundamental question that needs to be answered and solved for, I believe, and we're not doing enough about it. So,
it's never going to be enough. It has to be a global effort in that sense, and it's not a global effort.
Yes.
So that's a problem. But, from our little world, the small country of Greece...
Greece, yeah.
I think it's amazing. That's it. We have funds available that will leverage funds because our funds are equity funds. So you can go to ECB and raise loans, green loans, EIC, accelerator funds, green funds. Yeah. So what we do is we drive the companies to that direction. This is that much we can do.
Yes.
We have our fund managers, we trust them, we control them, we monitor them.
Yes.
We do exactly the same with the companies. And we promote all the success stories we can have in this direction.
Yes.
But we cannot have any other way because we don't invest in the others.
No.
So, it's a one-way street for us.
No.
So this is what we do for that. I don't know.
No, I totally agree with Alexandros, but also I believe that especially in the Greek mentality and Greek market, you must combine incentive and all this that Alexandros described, but also with penalties and mandatory measurements. Why steps? Because especially for SMEs, whenever we go and we present how important it is to be more sustainable, to integrate, to embed ESG best practices in their daily life, the first question you get is it mandatory? Is there an authority that is going to enforce me with a fine or a penalty if I won't do it? When you say no, you have lost the 90% of the possibilities to get the lead.
I'll see you in Paros, basically. I'll see you in Paros in August.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Believe me, this is my daily life. The most important that I have noticed the last few years is that the society and the customers And all these studies that show that especially Gen Z and the new generations are willing to pay more
Yep.
if you prove that you're sustainable, but with no greenwashing, right, but with a verified way, they are willing to pay more this company.
That's right.
So at the end of the day, I think that there is a combination between the incentives, the story building, but also legislation and obligation.
Yeah.
We cannot trust the middle human belief that he wants to contribute to a better planet. They do not really care about the next generations. Let's be sincere. As you told, I have.
I think
I
you're
don't
being
like
very
any more
pessimistic.
stories.
I mean, really?
No,
will
not.
agree.
I am in the real life.
Okay.
And the real life is this one.
Okay.
So when the Greek government has established the new climate law,
Yeah.
and fine if some companies they do not assess their carbon CO2 carbon footprint scope 1 and 2, they will get a fine. Then the majority of them started CO2 assessments. So, okay, I don't support that we must be strict, full of fines, full of legislation, but we must combine.
Sticks and carrots, as they say.
Yes, sticks and
But
carrots.
how do we go about?
As a
Tell me now.
policymaker, you have to make it uneconomical.
Yes,
for
that's
the
right.
other one to break the law. You are absolutely correct about that. We are in luck, HCBI, because we invest in companies that usually the average age of the founders are about 30 years old.
Yes.
So they have a different mentality.
Yes. That's right.
That's why we have this perception as HCBI. We are more optimistic.
100%.
The world is changing.
So I mean, on that note, it is changing, and there's this sort of swarm of the sort of these young sort of change makers coming through to try and change through this new paradigm shift. I think looking at it sort of in a different perspective now, in terms of what can we do in terms of actionable insights that we can sort of learn from, that we can actually sort of share with us all here today. You know, 1 or 2, 3 actionable insights that you believe, based from an investor's, from a fund's point of view, or from a practitioner's point of view. I've got some viewers as well. What are your thoughts on how we can sort of apply 1 or 2, 3, actionable positive insights that we can assist the ecosystem to sort of flourish in some sense, based on our know-how?
We have. Do you want me to start? Yes. We have one, and this is working very well because we have a green call, so it's dedicated to that, and we have some funds, and what they do is they have convertible bonds when they invest.
Yes.
So they give a bonus to the founders, so they retain more and more of their company,
Their equity,
as they surpass KPIs. So it's the opposite. It's a positive.
Yes. Versus being a discounted convertible note. It's the opposite.
It's working perfectly.
Beautiful.
We have innovations that start with.
But nobody knows this stuff.
The fund manager has done most of the work, but. We talk to them and we give them advice because we are, the sovereign fund of funds.
Yes.
And that was an idea that came through and actually it worked.
Wow.
And this is a very, very good example we have. And it's not just one company. This is the way they invest. One fund, I don't want to advertise it.
Yes.
We'll talk about it later on together.
Yes.
But it's working perfectly.
Yes.
So this is because we want to always transform it into positive action towards the environment. I agree, and I'm not saying that you are wrong. You need to have penalties. You need to have laws, and be prepared to impose them.
Yes.
But the other message is so much more
plan B.
positive.
Yeah. Let's say that should be.
It should be a plan B.
What should be plan B?
Or in some cases,
fine.
Yeah.
And catching up from what Alexandros said, and one level lower, let's see that when the banks, the financial institutions, they can combine all their financing products with specific sustainability loans. Some of them, they have started doing that. If you give the incentive to an SME or a large-scale company, look, guys, according to your credit assessment, you are eligible to give you this loan. okay, take a loan of a 5-6
Yeah.
rate as an annual rate, for example. But if you will succeed these sustainable goals, I will give you 1% discount
Yep.
on your rate.
Yes.
Also, all these aids, ESPA, investment law, RRF,
Exactly.
we have billions that we give, that we are going to provide as, I say as a state, the Greek government will give a liquidity of some billions in the next few years
Yes.
from these calls. Connect them with sustainability goals.
Yes.
If you say, for example, in an SME, because I have developed hundreds of business loans for SMEs to get an ESPA aid, okay?
Yes.
Look, if you say to them, look guys, if you're going to succeed these metrics the next 3 years, the subside will go from 50 to 60%.
Yes.
Believe me, it's their first priority,
Yes, to do it.
the sustainability goals.
Yeah.
Show them the money. They
Yep.
don't care for nothing else.
Yep.
Show them the money for the SMEs
But isn't
because
that a
they
short-term?
struggle.
But isn't that
They
a
struggle
short-term
to
thing?
survive.
I
They
know,
struggle
but
to
how do you
survive.
future-proof the company for the long term if they're basically thinking short-term?
You need to choose the best
Mentality.
intermediaries to convey the message. We have other guys, a team of managers, that they give out of their own carried interest to donations.
What else?
I mean, this is a mindset.
100%.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
that's true.
this is not something that we told them.
I've seen that a lot of the
They
Northern
said
European
that
Articles 9
I mean,
funds.
it's different. The world is changing.
Yes.
The new generation is a hope,
100%.
and we need to trust them, invest in them, control them. Yes, set the guidelines. But if you unleash them, probably you will accelerate the change.
That's exactly right. And I think that's what's required right now, to see more of that drive, to help them be unleashed, to actually drive that change. I mean, with the classic technology ecosystem evolutionary pathway, there's this crossing the chasm, which we're probably aware of.
Yeah.
We need to get to that point right now, which is probably a few years away. I do believe we're entering a stage where we're in the trough of disillusionment right now with ESG, greenwashing, what was the other term I've heard last week? Green hushing as well. Green wishing, I heard yesterday on a podcast. So greenwashing, green wishing, and green hushing, everything's green. Look, I'm actually conscious of time. I wanted to spend another 5 years talking about this thing, but
we can
we've only got 3-4 minutes left. Get what's some closing remarks, guys, on sort of this topic of going beyond ESG reporting and applying sort of sustainable and circular practices. We really didn't talk much about this topic. We spoke about things in general, but it was all related to the thematic. What is a sort of a closing remark that you guys have?
I will say that this is one of our mottos: believe in change.
Yes.
And trust the new generation. We do that, and we believe it's going to work that way. There's no other way.
I agree. I think it's just amazing people here, amazing talent, and it has to be. It's the future. So, agree totally. Nico, Dr. Nico.
Yeah, I'm a little less optimistic.
Come on.
To be sincere, I think that there is a great gap that we must come and connect and see that people from over 40 they have a different approach as regards sustainability, and people under 35-30 they have also a different approach. These two approaches, for the time being, in my opinion and according to my experience, is quite different. It's fundamentally different. And we must see how we're going to change and improve the mentality of these both different worlds. None of them is completely right. None of them is completely wrong. The first one, they have suffered from a crisis, believe me, so they need to be more secure, to feel more financially secure. The other ones, they have read about this crisis, to be sincere, or they have seen their parents sometimes that they suffered from this crisis, and they are more romantic without having to be struggling for their daily life or work. So the truth is something in the middle. That's why this is my.
I'm gonna close by challenging you a little bit on that to say that I don't think it's an age thing. I don't think it's a generational thing. I do strongly believe that there across all generations there are people that do want to do good and just are happy to go with the flow. Yanika, I'm over 50, so. And I think we're all collectively wanting to do good. So I think a generalisation around generational thing is one thing. There's good, bad, and ugly in all generations. But I think the other point at high level to close is that I do believe this country has got amazing potential. One small thing that I'd like to see more of, based on my direct experience and know-how in market, is to see a lot of the younger generation who've got the future ahead of them to be more ambitious. It's probably one important thing that I'm super disappointed with, and I try to do every day in talking to young people in this market is to take on the world. Don't be afraid to have Greece to be your cocoon. And it's something that's really important if we're trying to tackle some of the big world problems and we localize them. It does not mean we should just do them for Greece. We should have the potential to do them for not just Greece, but also go global with the way that they think and operate. And it's something that I want to sort of close on is that I do believe in this mantra that small is becoming beautiful again. Yeah. And this notion of globalization is coming to some form of an end. And we sort of heard about this topic earlier today during some of our other panel speakers. And there's a notion of regionalization and localization coming through. It's just the way the world is changing right now. And I think in that sense, we're going to close by really believing that Greece is in its infancy around a new era, around believing that small is beautiful again. Localism and a spirit of circularity and sustainability can be done for Greece, in Greece, and to not be afraid to take on some amazing things in the 21st century, and to go beyond ESG reporting, basically, on that note. So, on that note, thanks everyone, and I think we really enjoyed that chat. Thank you.